Welcome back to Michigan Outdoors with Dan. It is July 4th, 2026, and I just wanted to take a minute to talk about some food plot equipment. I see a lot of stuff on social media talking about you got to have this, you got to have that, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so I just kind of wanted to go over some of the pieces of equipment that we have accumulated up here on the property and what we use to do food plots with. And I see stuff on social media where people talk about the most valuable piece of equipment and this and that and the other thing. So let's go through this real quick. So first of all, if you're doing food plots, unless you're doing some kind of online image overlay to measure your food plots, a good tool to have to measure your food plots is a rangefinder, because you'll be able to measure the length and width of your plot and do some simple math, and then you'll be able to figure out just how big of a food plot you have. And why is that important? Because unless you're doing straight up 1 acre plots at every plot that you have, most plots are going to be less than an acre in size, and usually you're just trying to carve out something that's already there. So a rangefinder is going to help you figure out just how big that plot is. The other thing that I think is very important is a digital scale, and this one was pretty cheap. I got it online. It's been very valuable to me. The reason why I like it so much is because I can zero out the scale. I can put a 5-gallon bucket onto it, and then depending on how much seed or fertilizer that I need or soil amendments for what I'm doing for whatever plot, it's very easy for me to measure it out and calculate it properly, which makes my life a lot easier. You know, you might have a bag of seed or a bag of fertilizer, and then you're trying to cut it in half and do math in your head, and it's real easy for me to measure out exactly what it is I need, and then I can put it in whatever device I'm using, and that way I know how much seed I'm actually putting out in a plot. So a minute ago, I just talked about using the scale to measure out exactly how much seed you have and need. And I'm sure somebody in the video is going to look at what's behind me or the bench that I'm using here and say, well, you have a seed drill, Dan. Well, yes, we are very fortunate that we have access to a seed drill. We haven't had it very long. We're still calibrating it. We're still using it. There's a lot of different settings to make sure that it works correctly. You don't have to have a seed drill to be successful with food plotting. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to have a seed drill to be successful with food plotting. Now, as you see here, I've got a couple different spreaders that we have here that go on the back of a ATV that you can put fertilizer in, lime in, seed in, and then spread those. And we talked about the scale earlier. The other thing is that we have a couple of these bag seeders that have a gate onto it, and it even on the bottom might have some seed recommendations as for what you're doing, you know, so that you can set the gate so that you can get it right. This is a real cheap one here that we've had, yard turf. We've had this one up here at the property. We've used it quite a bit over the years. It does tell you on the bottom roughly what you need to have the gate settings set at in order to spread your seed. Now, most of the time, if we're doing something like an oats, a buckwheat, a cereal rye, a grains, something to that effect, we're going to use the bigger spreader that goes on the back of an ATV and then adjust the gate accordingly so that we can spread our seed. And we've used these types of things here for quite a while prior to having the grain drill. The other thing is that if you're doing clover, brassica, small seeds, it is really recommended that you have one of these nice bag seeders to use. And back when I was talking about the scale a few minutes ago, the other reason why the scale is important is because you can split a bag of seed, you can put seed in one of these, and then you can go out and do your work at your food plot. A rule to the thumb, I would always, until you are very confident with what you're doing and using one of these, put half the amount of seed into it that you need, and walk east and west, and then go back once you're a little bit more confident with the gate setting on these, and then walk east and west. It's real easy, whether you're using one of these big ones that goes on your ATV that's electrically powered, or one of even these bag seeders, to put all the seed that you think you need in it for a plot. You mess up on the gate setting and you don't get done. So until you get really confident with using this stuff, always try to put half the seed out and go in 2 different directions. It's a good way to start. It's a good way to make sure that you get really good coverage on that. One of the more important pieces of equipment I think you need to have in your tools for food plotting is a sprayer. Before you go buy anything, before you buy seed, I think a good sprayer that's calibrated and that you're familiar with is going to be a great thing. Most people think of a sprayer for spraying glyphosate or various other 2,4-D, 2,4-DB, IMOX, clethodim, whatever it is. But there's a lot of products out here now where you can do some soil amendments with a sprayer too. You know, I don't exactly get real excited when a soil sample says that I have to do, you know, several tons of lime and I'm buying it in the bags. Versus maybe using a sprayer to apply a soil amendment. So just some food for thought. So with this ATV sprayer here, if I'm going 4 miles an hour, I have my fixed value. Then I know how many seconds it takes me to travel 100 yards, which is 51 seconds. And then I do a 1 nozzle catch and I get 250. So then I'm able to then go take my speed in seconds, my number of nozzle output, which is 1, and then I have a math equation here, and basically this here with this math equation that I have, I can do about 16 gallons to the acre. And now that I know that I can do 16 gallons to the acre with this sprayer, that's going to help me figure out how much chemical I need. Now, I've taken it a step farther when I show you this screenshot, because I've also done it on 4 mile an hour, 5 mile an hour, and then I've also varied the boom length a little bit of the single nozzle a little bit, and so I've done an average. So I'm somewhere around 14 gallons to the acre, and I'll put a screenshot of this up here. It's funny to me. Reading social media comments on how to calibrate your sprayer and how much chemical you should use. I've read comments before where people talk about, you know, adding so many glugs and, well, I add half the jug and this and that and the other thing. I really think it's important that a sprayer is a very, very good piece of tool that you should have. It's probably next to a bag seeder that I was just showing you over there. That and a sprayer are invaluable to have when it comes to food plotting, for all the different uses that you should have. So just a quick recap here. You know, whether you're a beginner, whether you're a seasoned food plotter, some of the tools that I find to make my job a lot easier is, again, one of the ATV spreaders, a scale, so I know how much seed I'm putting out, sprayer, seeder. You can do a lot with ingenuity, and an ATV is a good tool to have to get to your deer blinds. You can use an ATV, you can use your side-by-side, you can use a tractor. I once knew a guy that was working on developing some property up north, and he didn't really have a use for an ATV, but he was trying to do some food plot work. And so he needed to pull his drag or whatever it was, or seeder. So what did he do? He went to Facebook Marketplace and he bought an old lawnmower. He took the deck off from it. He could pull his drag, he could spread his seed, he could do whatever he needed to do. So if you're mindful and you're savvy, you don't have to go buy brand new equipment. You don't have to buy you know, $1,000 3-point sprayer. You don't have to buy a $500 ATV sprayer. If you're a little bit handy and you watch Facebook Marketplace, you'll be amazed what little things you can pick up here and there. As you can see from some of the equipment that I just talked about here, none of it was brand new. Some of it was bought secondhand. Some of it we've had a while, some of it we've repaired. So hopefully this will help you in the 2026 food plot season. Again, it's July 4th. We're probably going to start mowing and terminating somewhere the end of July, the beginning of August. And it's possible we're going to have a roller crimper. So stay tuned for that.